Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod with Emilia Andrews. She's a CMO, a fractional CMO. She won the M&A Growth Marketer of the Year. I'm gonna want to discuss that. That's quite interesting. So we're gonna discuss marketing, being a business owner, entrepreneurship, and growth strategies today. She exited a business of hers after 20 years of Beholder Production. So she worked 20 years there and was a writer and producer for Wiley, Disney, Adidas, Young, SunTrust Bank, Bank of America, huge brands. So we're going to talk about how to acquire these brands and how to retain them as clients. It's going to be a fun one. This podcast is brought to you by podfire.com. If you want to start your own podcast, scale it, monetize it, get insights from cool folks like Emilia, you can go to podfire.com. I can help you start and scale your podcast. Emilia, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and about what you're up to nowadays.
Great. Thank you so much, Charles, for having me. And look forward to talking to the founders and CEOs and all the businesses out there. So I started the company back in 1999 as a video production company with my partner. Over quite a few years, I would say about 2007, 2010, we converted over to full service marketing services. And so instead of just focusing only on video production, we then transferred over to providing all of the services from web and SEO, digital strategy, et cetera. So that's how we moved along. And then, of course, going from agency, so we're talking 20 plus years in the agency world, then being able to work directly with clients in-house with them as either a CMO or fractional CMO. So that way I can infuse directly with their teams and helping them get on their path to grow.
So let's get straight to it. How did you get all these clients back in the days? These are huge brands. Is it patience? Is it expecting long sales cycle? How do you get in touch with these brands and convert them as your clients?
You are correct. The sales cycle was incredibly long. At one point, so both my partner and I in the United States, they consider us MBEs, Minority Business Enterprise. So I am Latina and my husband is an African American. And what was incredibly interesting was where we thought it would actually be easier for our role to fall under, say, the Supplier Development Council or diversity initiatives, it actually made it harder. So we took the approach of saying, if that were to benefit them as a company, as in our clients, we gave them the certificates afterwards. And that was about a 2-year struggle. So what we ended up doing was just presenting ourselves, pitching ourselves, and building up an email database and consistently communicating what we can do and how we can help them. So we were able to build trust. And then that's when it started to really flow in. They're like, okay, we see the quality of work that you do and how you do it. And so and I'm talking years and years ago that they had given us opportunity to say, okay, let's start on a project. Okay, well, let's move this into a year retainer. So it was wonderful to see the transition happen for us to go from and technically Disney, I should actually say this, Disney was our third client. So it wasn't like we were waiting a long time for it, but it was a function of saying, this is what we have, this is what we do, and this is how we can help support your goals. Do you want to work together? And being consistent with that messaging really helped us forge a path with these higher end organizations.
So you scaled that business to around 2 million a year. Why stop that greatness?
It actually scaled up to 3.2, which was wonderful. The issue is that we've noticed, and that was great over time, but what we noticed is there was a shift, especially with video production. There was a shift over into, as we all know, social media, Facebook, all of these new social media tools. So when we first started, even Google didn't exist. Yes, while it was there, it didn't exist as it does now, I should say. I should say that. So where and how people utilize technology, search capabilities, how content is disseminated. So where we would take more of a corporate and a broadcast standard, it didn't matter now. Now people can just use the cell phone and get that messaging out there. So we shifted our strategy, looked ahead of the curve and said, well, we still want to be relevant. we still want to make sure that, even though the cell phone can create content, there still needs to be that professionalism behind it when it comes to a brand or a business. And that's what we were able to bring to the table, seeing it as a full circle agency rather than just video.
Super interesting. Nowadays, you do interim CMO work. How does that play with you? You bring that background with you, but you don't run that $3 million a year business anymore. So how does it feel? Yeah, like different probably to make less cash, but doing something that is more of your liking and more custom. So what's the difference between back then that running that business and now being an interim CMO?
Financially, I have found that it's actually more lucrative. What we're doing is, instead of me building our company, I took a shift in position and saying, how can we position ourselves and position myself to build multiple companies at once? By working within another organization, for example's sake, there is say a law firm that I had worked with. They service clients. It was insanity. It wasn't just a small local law firm. We're talking a law firm that would bring in building roughly about $400 million. And so we're scaling at a whole separate level. What was missing from a lot of these organizations that I do work with now is actually aligning sales and sales revenue goals with the marketing initiatives. And so bringing in somebody who really is more adept at growth marketing, realizing it's not enough to just say, hey, I put something out on social or my website looks pretty. That's wonderful. But if it's not converting, if it's not actually leading you to something you're trying to convert to or achieve, then it's not really working for that revenue growth goal. And so by bringing myself in there, I'm able to really give them, here's 3 succinct steps that we have to make sure that we're following. If you already have staff and team that does it, great. I'll give them directives what they need to do. Otherwise, let's fill in the hole so we can grow faster.
Right. And tell me about that M&A award of yours, M&A Growth Marketer of the Year. Like, how did you get that?
So a lot of the work that I like to do is working with business owners who are not necessarily sure what the next steps are. What are they going to do? Meaning, and I'll give you actually a small story about my father. My father immigrated from Argentina to the States, and he started his business only because of the fact that when he came to the States, he didn't speak English. So they're like, oh, we'll go be a painter. And we're talking the 1960s. So there was no real thought to that. But he was an electrical engineer. And so they didn't really accept, again, the 60s, they didn't really accept his education. They didn't accept the fact he didn't speak English. So they kind of ushered him off. I find a lot of small businesses, not exactly like his story, but they knew that they could be more than just what perhaps the marketplace were saying. So they started their own businesses. And so the way that I see it, a lot of folks, whether what they consider boomers here in the States or, they hit a certain age or threshold and they're like, I either want to think of a succession plan. What's my exit strategy? I could be between 40 and, 55 and may want to sell off my company, or I'm over 65 and I need this company that I've invested decades in to actually be my retirement plan. So I've worked with quite a few companies to give them hypergrowth, whether it's 18 months or 2 years. And the immediate focus is taking the company, say, from 1 to 2 million, 2 million to 6 million, 6 million plus, by just implementing these things. So I knew that I was on a shortened term. I had goals that I have to hit. And I did it like really well. And so the clients that I had worked with, actually, I found out later that some of them had nominated me for succession advisory and M&A uh, award thing. And then that's where it came up, because apparently with all of them that I did, there were so many growth metrics that across the board that they all were able to sell off their company and retire very comfortably. So it was exciting to be a part of that, and knowing that we all had the same mindset. I wasn't looking to be with the company for the next 10 years. They had immediate goal. Let's put in the work and grow.
So how do you help M&A people get a view of what's next for them? How do you help them reach product market fit? How is that achieved?
Sure. So a couple different ways. So for instance, in some of the companies, I was, we, I say we because it's not just one person, but it's leading the charge in that sense. But understanding that, for instance, it could be as simple as having to incorporate a monthly recurring revenue model. When people are purchasing your organization, they want to know, is there fluidity that just toggles the whole year, or are you seasonally bringing an influx of cash? So I'll give you an example on a pest control company that was 1 to 2 million. We took it 2 to 6, and then we were able to build them up further to sell at 12 million. That owner would never have been able to do that without implementing certain things. So rather than a per project or per assignment, we've then developed product packages, if you would, that says, yes, you're still going to get these 3 to 4 service calls a year, but we want you to pay us every month. So you're not taking a hard financial hit. Boom. Now their sales team, and that's where it goes back to the alignment piece, their sales team were able to say, great, these are the packages we have. Mr. Customer, which one would you like? So now it's not a question of, do you want to work with me? It's which one do you want to work with me on? And that just skyrocketed the sale. So that's an example of one way to do it, is just seeing what you have, making slight adjustments, and then realizing that the greater sales potential is simply because of how marketing created that foundation for that growth.
Right. What are your top goals this year? What are you focusing on?
Sure. So actually with my own growth, for my personal one, I'm looking for my own growth in the sense of it's not always necessarily how many clients that I work with, but the positioning that I could be placed in. And a lot of the entrepreneurs that are starting new businesses that are working with me, what I love is that I'm also being able to become a partner with them, and they recognize the work that I'm bringing in. They would not have achieved it. Some of them have been trying something for like 2 years. They're not able to achieve it. So for myself, it's okay. Well, if you want to partner, then we can both have skin in the game. And then we're seeing that growth go up. And the other component too that I really want to help educate more folks. I've actually started to develop my own podcast. I appreciate hearing yours, and it's like, just get out there, just educate folks, letting them know what they can do. And you've inspired me a lot to really just say, just put it out there. Let folks know that you have help that they can use.
What's your goal with the podcast? What do you want to achieve?
Right now, it's truly at its infancy stage. So I would like to be able to get to the point that I have enough followers, I have enough um, traction and viewers that are appreciating the information that I'm providing. The one thing that I did like is that in years past, I would be asked by whether it's Fast Company or Forbes or any of these periodicals or publications, asking me for advice or whatnot. And I kind of want to, in essence, while I appreciate that, and that's all fine and good, I want to be able to have my own platform. So increasing the number of subscribers and really just putting out the content on a regular basis. So after this whole first year, um, wanting to utilize some passive income by what I put out there in content would be wonderful.
Right. And who would you target for that pod?
For me, it's really more the entrepreneurs and the business owners. Oftentimes, I find myself having a lot more marketing people that take heed and listen in to me as well. So that would be my third group. But just letting them know that you can implement certain simple tactics, but are not traditional. And so the one big thing is recognizing that what may have worked 5 years ago is just not going to work now, and that's okay. It's okay to just let those old styles go and continue to work on what does work for your organization.
Right. And nowadays, how do you acquire all these clients? Do you do outreach? Is it referrals? Is it SEO? How do you get these clients to be interested in you?
Yeah, so LinkedIn has been, as far as social media, LinkedIn has been wonderful. Interesting enough, TikTok. I did not expect that for what I put out there with TikTok, but at this point, you never know. Last year was Instagram. This year's, I would say the last 4 months has been TikTok. I do want to see more come in from YouTube. and that's why I'm initiating this. But the other component of it is SEO and referrals. Of course, I have referrals, which is wonderful, but SEO positioning, good quality content, whether it's on my blog or on other blogs, and it's referred back over to me. So just kind of spreading my knowledge around a few different areas that helps it come back to my website or my LinkedIn has been wonderful.
Often post about athletes on your Insta. Who are your mentors nowadays, and what lessons are flashing in front of your eyes from listening to these folks?
So Alex, and I can't believe I can't remember her name. I just have it
Leila.
on. Leila, thank you. Thank you. I do love listening to them just because of how they don't sound canned. There are some of them that are very like they're trying too hard, and I would rather just get straight information. If one post or podcast or whatnot is not resonating with me, I can move on to the next one, and that's okay. But I just love the fact that not everything is always going to be positive. As a business owner, you're going to go through tough times, whether it's financial, health, family, life in general. You're going to go through rough times. So what I really like to focus on is not just focusing on the positive things, it's focusing on having discipline in the process. And you may not be the one always doing it. You may have to learn to delegate and saying, great, but this is still the process, and just keep moving forward.
It's just crazy how they're exploding the hormoses, and yeah, I like their approach as well, and keenly studying them. They're probably, yeah, let's say that I mimic probably like 100 to 1,000 business folks. Well, I mimic probably like at least 5% of my strategy on them. The contents that I put out is super good. It's well edited. The shorts, the podcast strategy of Alex, yeah, it's just genius.
Yes, yes. I know for myself, what I tend to find is because and this is just my own, I could be very wrong, but it's my own hang up, I would say, is I feel like because I was in the production industry for so long, I'm more critical of myself. And everybody's critical of themselves. Oh, I don't like how I sound, how I look. But for me, it's more of the production wise where I needed to really let that go. I needed to, yes, I have some, the branding and things like that, but I needed to then realize it's the information that I'm sending out to clients that would actually, and prospects and whoever's listening, is actually far more important.
Emilia, thank you for today. Where can people find out more about you?
Definitely, they could visit www.emiliaandrews.com or just find me on LinkedIn, Emilia Andrews.